November 2008. A hotel room in Mexico City. Two American brothers sit across from the most wanted drug lord on earth. Between them, a briefcase. Inside, $1.8 million in cash. What El Chapo Guzman doesn't know is that one of them is wearing a wire. The Flores twins, Pedro and Margarito, have moved over $2 billion in cocaine and heroin through Chicago's streets. They've negotiated directly with El Chapo. They've sat at tables with the Beltran Leyva brothers. They've seen cartel accountants executed for skimming pennies. And now they're recording everything for the FBI. One wrong word, one suspicious glance, one sweep for electronics, and they're dead. Not arrested, not imprisoned, dissolved in acid and dumped in a barrel. That's cartel protocol for informants. El Chapo leans forward. His voice is calm, almost friendly. He starts discussing prices per kilogram, routes through Arizona, police commanders on the payroll. The twins nod along, their hearts pounding so hard they're certain the wire will pick it up. This meeting will become the centerpiece of the biggest drug prosecution in American history. Those recordings will be played in a Brooklyn courtroom. A decade later, El Chapo himself will sit 50 feet away, listening to his own voice incriminate him. But that's 10 years from now. Right now, in this hotel room, the twins are wondering if they'll survive the next 10 minutes. How did two kids from Chicago's Little Village neighborhood end up here? Trusted enough by the most powerful cartel in history to handle billion-dollar shipments, brave enough to flip against them, and crazy enough to wear a wire into a meeting with Joaquin Guzman? This is the story of Operation Flores, the FBI operation that took down the Sinaloa cartel's American pipeline. It cost two brothers their freedom, their family, and nearly their lives. And if you're the kind of person who wants to understand how the FBI really takes down criminal empires, not the Hollywood version, but the real one, you'll want to stay until the end. Because what the twins discovered about who was really protecting El Chapo is something the government never wanted released. To understand how two Chicago kids ended up recording the world's most dangerous drug lord, we need to go back to where it all began. Chicago, 1992. Little Village. Two 12-year-old twins walk past corner lookouts on 26th Street. The lookouts nod. Everyone knows their father. Margarito Flores Sr. isn't a kingpin. He's a worker, a mid-level distributor moving product through Chicago's Mexican neighborhoods. But in Little Village, that makes him somebody. The twins watch him count stacks of cash at the kitchen table. They see the new cars, the respect. They learn the family business, the way other kids learn to change, oil, or swing a hammer. By 16, Pedro and Margarito Jr. are running their own corner. By 20, they've outgrown their father's operation entirely. They're not moving ounces anymore, they're moving kilos. Here's what separated the Flores twins from every other ambitious drug dealer in Chicago. They were businessmen first, gangsters second. While rivals shot each other over territory, the twins negotiated, while competitors flashed jewelry. And if you're finding this story as insane as I did when I first researched it, you're going to want to subscribe, because the next 3 minutes explain how two guys from Chicago became El Chapo's most trusted American partners. The twins flew to Mexico. They expected to meet with middle management. Instead, they were driven to a ranch in the mountains of Sinaloa. Waiting for them was Joaquin El Chapo Guzman himself. El Chapo sized them up. He liked what he saw. Young, hungry, smart enough to avoid the spotlight, and most importantly, American citizens with clean records who could move freely across the border. He made them an offer, exclusive distribution rights for the entire Midwest. The twins said yes. What they didn't realize was that saying yes to El Chapo meant saying yes to everything, including things that would keep them awake at night for the rest of their lives. Within 18 months, they were moving 20 tons of cocaine per year, but the higher they climbed, the more they saw. And what they saw would eventually force an impossible choice. Chapter 3, the billion-dollar Pipeline A warehouse outside Chicago. Pedro Flores watches as workers unload a tractor trailer hidden inside industrial equipment. 500 kilograms of cocaine. Street value, $45 million. This single shipment is larger than most cartels move in a year. For the twins, it's a Tuesday. At their peak, the Flores operation was generating $2 billion annually. They had distribution cells in Chicago, Detroit, Cincinnati, Columbus, Milwaukee, Philadelphia, and Washington, D.C. They employed over 100 workers. They had accountants, logistics coordinators, and stash house managers on salary. They also had something no other American distributor had, a direct line to El Chapo's satellite phone. The cartel gave them product on consignment, meaning they didn't pay until after they sold it. That kind of trust was unheard of. It meant the Sinaloa leadership considered them family, which made what happened next even more dangerous. The Sinaloa cartel fractures. The Beltran-Leyva brothers, longtime allies of El Chapo, split off and declare war. Suddenly, the twins are caught between two of the most violent organizations on Earth. Both sides want their loyalty. Both sides are willing to kill for it. Then people around them start dying. A cousin shot in Mexico. A business associate vanished. A transporter found in a barrel. The twins realize something terrifying. In a cartel civil war, neutrality is the death sentence. They run the numbers. Every scenario ends the same way. Dead, in prison, or both. The money doesn't matter if you're not alive to spend it. Pedro makes a call. Not to El Chapo, not to the Beltran-Leyvas, to the DEA. Now, if you're thinking, there's no way this works, you're right to be skeptical. Cartel informants have a life expectancy measured in weeks. The twins were about to bet their lives on an operation that had never been attempted at this level. Hit subscribe if you want to see how this plays out, because what the twins did next broke every rule of undercover work. The DEA agent who took that call couldn't believe what he was hearing. The Flores twins weren't just offering information, they were offering access. Direct access to the leadership of the most powerful drug cartel in history. There was just one condition. The twins wanted to keep operating. They would continue moving cocaine. They would continue meeting with cartel leaders. But every conversation would be recorded. Every shipment would be tracked. Every dollar would be documented. The FBI called it Operation Flores. The twins called it a death wish. Chapter 4. The Wire, October 2008. Private airstrip in Mexico. Margarito Flores boards a small plane. Strapped to his chest, under his shirt, a digital recording device so small it looks like a heart monitor. He's about to meet with Arturo Beltran-Leyva, the most violent cartel boss in Mexico, a man who decorates his compound with the severed heads of enemies. If Arturo finds the wire, Margarito won't be executed. He'll be tortured first. For days, his screams will be recorded and sent to his family as a warning. The plane lands. Armed guards escort him to a ranch house. Arturo is waiting with a bottle of expensive tequila and a smile that doesn't reach his eyes. For the next 2 hours, they discuss shipments, routes, and prices. Arturo complains about El Chapo. He talks about police commanders he's bribed. He names politicians on his payroll. The recorder catches everything. Margarito walks out alive, but he knows his luck won't last. 1 month later, November 2008, it's Pedro's turn. The meeting with El Chapo himself. The hotel room in Mexico City. The briefcase of cash. El Chapo sitting across the table speaking freely about his organization because he trusts the men in front of him completely. Your people move more product than anyone else in Chicago, El Chapo says. That's why I like you. Pedro nods, feeling the weight of the wire against his skin. El Chapo discusses cocaine prices. $25,000 per kilogram. He mentions a recent seizure, blaming a rival for the tip-off. He describes his escape tunnels, his police contacts, his political protection. For 3 hours, the most wanted man in the world incriminates himself on tape. When Pedro finally leaves, his shirt is soaked with sweat. But he has something no law enforcement agency has ever obtained. El Chapo, in his own voice, admitting to running a drug empire. The twins continued, recording for another year. They captured conversations with over 50 cartel figures. They documented $1.8 billion in drug transactions. They identified corrupt officials on both sides of the border. Then in 2009, they surrendered to U.S. authorities. The news hit the cartel like a bomb. The men El Chapo trusted most had been FBI informants the entire time. Now, if you want to know what happened next, because the consequences of the twins' betrayal were about to become very, very personal, hunting for anyone connected to the Flores family. The twins were in protective custody, but their father wasn't. Chapter 5, The Reckoning, September 2009. Guadalajara, Mexico. Senior, the twins' father, is abducted from his home by armed men. He's never seen again. The cartel's message was clear. We can't reach you. We can reach everyone you love. The twins had known this might happen, begged their father to leave Mexico. He refused. Really flipped. He didn't believe El Chapo would come for him. He was wrong. For the next decade, the Flores twins lived in a federal prison, their testimony locked away until it was needed. They cooperated fully, naming names, identifying shipments, explaining cartel structure. In exchange, prosecutors promised reduced sentences. But here's where the story takes a turn that still makes me angry. Despite delivering the most valuable intelligence in DEA history, despite wearing wires into meetings that could have killed them, despite losing their father to cartel revenge, Pedro and Margarito Flores were sentenced to 14 years each. 14 years. They expected 5. They'd been promised consideration for their extraordinary cooperation. Instead, the judge decided to make an example of them. You were drug traffickers first. Their recordings were the backbone of the case that finally brought down El Chapo Guzman in 2019. When those tapes played in a Brooklyn courtroom, El Chapo sat motionless, listening to himself discuss murders, shipments, bribes, captured by men he'd considered brothers. Years in ADX Florence, the most secure prison in America, will never leave. The Flores twins broke the unbreakable rule of the cartel. They talked, and somehow they lived. Up at night, the Sinaloa cartel is still operating. Business model. The cocaine still flows, the billions still move, helped cut off the head. But the body grew a new one. If you want to see what happens when someone goes even deeper than the Flores twins, a man who spent years inside a criminal organization, earning trust, building relationships, it all down. You need to watch our video on the FBI agent who infiltrated the KKK and America's most dangerous neo-Nazi terror cell. That story makes this one look like a warm-up. Click now. And if this video kept you watching until the end, you're exactly the kind of viewer we make these for. Subscribe and hit the bell, because the next one is going to be even crazier.